Why some souls get tired of living. The truth few can face. There's a truth we rarely speak aloud, even though so many of us feel it in the quiet hours of our lives. Some souls just get tired, not in a way that sleep can fix, not in a way that motivational speeches can cure. It's a different kind of exhaustion, a soul-deep weariness that isn't always about depression or clinical despair. Sometimes it's philosophical, sometimes it's existential, sometimes it's spiritual. It's the kind of tired that comes from seeing too much, feeling too deeply, or carrying questions that no one wants to answer. And in a world that celebrates constant motion, this kind of still, silent fatigue is almost taboo. But what if we stop pretending it didn't exist? What if we looked directly at it and asked, what is this fatigue trying to tell me? When we talk about people being tired of life, we often reduce it to sadness, failure, or trauma. But those are just surface symptoms. The deeper cause, the truth few can face, is that some souls are tired not because life has been cruel, but because it has been empty. Empty of meaning, empty of connection, empty of moments that feel real. And the more sensitive, thoughtful, and awake you are, the more this emptiness becomes unbearable. You begin to ask questions that others avoid. Why am I doing all this? What is this all leading to? Who am I if I stop performing? And perhaps the most haunting one of all, is this all there is? You start to notice how much of life is scripted. You wake up, work, compete, scroll, sleep, repeat. You smile when you're supposed to. You chase goals that you didn't choose. You gather achievements like armor, but you still feel exposed. And somewhere along the way, you lose the thread of what makes anything feel worth it. It's not that you want to die. It's that you don't know how to live in a world that feels so disconnected from your soul. And no one teaches us what to do when meaning starts to vanish. No school prepares us for existential fatigue. No social media trend can fix the ache of feeling unseen, not by others, but by yourself.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
This is where the real philosophical journey begins. This is the point where some souls either shut down or awaken. Because when you get tired of living, you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads to numbing distraction, addictions, endless stimulation. The other leads to depth introspection, truth, and the terrifying liberation of choosing to feel everything. Most people take the first path because it's easier. It's familiar. It lets you function. But the second path, that's where something greater begins. And ironically, it starts with fully accepting the fatigue. Not running from it, not denying it. Sitting with it like an ancient teacher and asking, what are you trying to reveal to me? What most people don't realize is that existential tiredness is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of awareness, of presence, of soul-level honesty. To become tired of life is not always to lose hope, it is to lose illusions. That's painful. Because we were raised on illusions. We were told that if we do X, we'll be happy. If we achieve Y, we'll feel fulfilled. But some of us did all those things and still felt empty. So what do you do when the formulas don't work anymore? This is the moment when philosophy stops being academic and starts being necessary. Because philosophy at its core is the art of meaning-making. It's the discipline of asking the questions that life refuses to answer easily. Why are we here? What is suffering for? What is truth? What is beauty? Why do some people feel so deeply that even joy hurts? And why is it that the more conscious we become, the more isolated we can feel? Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like the deeper your awareness grows, the more disconnected you become from the world around you? That's not your fault. That's the pain of awakening. When you start to see through the noise, the nonsense, and the ego-driven games of society, it's natural to feel disillusioned. But disillusionment is not depression. It is the beginning of clarity. To be disillusioned means the illusions have fallen away. And while that leaves you naked, it also leaves you free. But freedom comes with a cost. Because now you must build your meaning from the ground up. No more borrowed beliefs. No more second-hand dreams. You must decide what matters. And for a soul that's tired, that decision feels impossible. But hear this, even the act of asking the question is an act of courage. If you're tired, but still curious, still asking, still wondering, then your soul isn't dead. It's simply shedding a skin that no longer fits. So if you're feeling this invisible exhaustion, don't rush to fix it. Let it speak. Sit in the silence. Walk in the questions. Read the old philosophers. Listen to your breathing. Strip away everything that isn't essential, because what remains after the noise, after the roles, after the pretending is you. And maybe that's where life begins again. The depth most people fear. When awareness becomes a burden and a blessing, there's a moment in life if you're brave enough to keep asking the hard questions. When awareness stops feeling like a burden, you begin to notice things others don't. The way people speak without listening. The way society celebrates distraction and punishes stillness. The way beauty is commodified, truth is edited, and silence is mistaken for emptiness. You feel everything. You notice the undercurrents in a conversation, the hollowness behind a smile, the desperation behind someone's need to stay busy. And the more you see, the more isolated you begin to feel. Awareness, once a light that illuminated everything around you, begins to feel like a spotlight you can't switch off. You didn't ask for it. You didn't want to be different. But now you can't unsee what you've seen. This is the part few talk about. The part where growth actually hurts. Because we romanticize awakening, we paint it like some blissful transformation. But the truth is, it often begins with grief. The grief of realizing how much of your life was lived in autopilot. The grief of seeing how asleep the world is, how so many people are living scripts, not lives. And the deepest grief of all, recognizing how lonely it is to wake up in a world that still wants to sleep. When you become aware, you don't just see the beauty of life more clearly. You also see the absurdity, the cruelty, the contradictions. You see the systems we've built, systems of status, of productivity, of power, and how they crush the human spirit while pretending to serve it. And yet, this awareness is not a curse. It's a threshold. A threshold into a new kind of existence that most people never reach, not because they can't, but because they won't. They're afraid. Afraid of what they'll have to let go of. Afraid of who they might become. Afraid of the silence that comes when they stop performing. But if you've made it to this point, if your soul is tired but your mind is alert and your heart is still searching, then you are on the cusp of something extraordinary. You are standing at the edge of the inner world, and the only thing left to do is fall in. But falling in means surrendering, not to despair but to depth, to the possibility that life is not what you were taught. That meaning is not found in what you accumulate, but in what you awaken. That love is not a transaction but a state of being. That truth is not a concept but a presence. And that your soul's exhaustion is not a flaw, it's a signal. A sacred signal that you're being called inward. So let me ask you something radical. What if your tiredness is sacred? What if it's not something to fix, but something to follow? What if it's telling you that your life has become too shallow for your soul? That your mind is hungry for truth? That your spirit is suffocating under roles? And that your heart is aching for a deeper connection, not with others, but with existence itself? This is where philosophy becomes medicine. Not the kind that numbs you, the kind that wakes you up. When Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how," he wasn't offering comfort. He was issuing a challenge. What is your why? Not a goal, not a career. A why that exists even when everything else falls apart. A why that can't be taken from you because it didn't come from the world, it came from within. To live with that kind of why is to live with fire. But first, you have to go through the ashes. You have to let everything false burn away. You have to let your tired soul rest not in sleep, but in truth. You have to stop pretending you're okay when you're not. Stop chasing what doesn't feed you. Stop ignoring the quiet voice that's been whispering for years. There is more than this. And there is, but you won't find it in the noise. You'll find it in stillness, in solitude, in the sacred dark where the soul remembers itself. That's the depth most people fear. But if you can face it, if you can walk into it without turning away, you won't just survive your tiredness. You'll transform through it. The invisible war, why the strongest souls fight battles no one sees. There's a hidden battlefield that most people will never recognize, let alone understand. It's not marked by blood or scars or medals. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't trend. It happens in the quiet, in the spaces between breaths, in the depths of the mind when the world falls asleep. It's the war within. And the strongest souls, the ones who appear calm, grounded, maybe even ordinary on the outside, are often the ones who are fighting the most relentless internal wars. You might pass them on the street, sit beside them at work, laugh with them at dinner, and never know that every moment of their life is a negotiation with their own shadow. This is the invisible war. And if you felt it, lived it, or are living it now, know this: you are not weak. You are not broken. You are fighting a battle that takes more courage than the world will ever give you credit for. The soul doesn't get tired because it's fragile. It gets tired because it's carrying weight that others refuse to lift. The weight of unspoken grief, the weight of questions that don't have answers, the weight of trying to live with integrity in a world that rewards performance over presence, noise over truth. And the most exhausting part isn't the pain, it's the invisibility. The feeling that no one sees what you're carrying, that your suffering is silent and your strength is mistaken for ease. But those who walk the hardest paths often do so with the softest steps, because they've learned that true power doesn't need to shout, it just endures. Ask yourself this: what are you carrying that no one knows about? What truths are you holding in your chest that have never been spoken? What dreams have you buried because the world told you they were too big, too strange, too impractical? And what parts of yourself have you hidden just to survive? These are the questions that define the invisible war. Not the external battles we all see, but the internal ones that shape the very architecture of your being. Ask yourself this: what are you carrying that no one knows about? What truths are you holding in your chest that have never been spoken? What dreams have you buried because the world told you they were too big, too strange, too impractical? And what parts of yourself have you hidden just to survive? These are the questions that define the invisible war. Not the external battles we all see, but the internal ones that shape the very architecture of your being. And this is where the practical becomes spiritual. Because to endure the invisible war, you need more than discipline. You need ritual. You need spaces in your life where your soul can breathe. That might be meditation, or journaling, or walking alone in nature. It might be reading ancient texts, or sitting in silence, or talking to someone who sees you, not your roles. Whatever it is, you must create it. No one will create it for you. The world isn't designed to nourish the soul, it's designed to distract it. You have to build your own sanctuary, and you must protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. The invisible war is not just a metaphor. It's real. And if you don't fight it consciously, it will consume you quietly. It will steal your joy, numb your passion, and turn your fire into smoke. But if you face it, if you choose to be the one who sees, who feels, who remembers, then you become something rare. You become someone who is not just alive, but fully awake. And that changes everything. You stop living on the surface. You stop pretending. You look people in the eye, and you see them not just their face, but their essence. You speak with weight. You move with presence. And even if the world never applauds you, your soul will know. You showed up for the battle that mattered most. The sacred rebellion, how tired souls find meaning in a world that lost its way. There comes a moment, somewhere beyond the exhaustion, beyond the inner battles, beyond the silence and the shadows, when a tired soul no longer seeks escape but purpose. Not the kind of purpose that's sold to us in neatly packaged slogans or five-step plans. Not the kind that depends on validation, money, or success, but a raw, honest, soul-born kind of meaning. One that feels like rebellion in a world that has forgotten how to feel. This is the sacred rebellion. The quiet uprising of those who have faced the void, walked through it, and decided not to give up, but to live differently. You see, when you've been burned by meaninglessness, you become a seeker not of comforts, but of truth. You stop chasing what the world says matters and start asking, but what matters to me? What feels real? What feels alive? And when those questions begin to shape your life, you're no longer just surviving. You're creating, rebuilding, reclaiming what the world tried to take from you. Your own inner compass. This rebellion doesn't look like rage. It looks like presence. It looks like someone who turns off the noise and dares to listen. Someone who walks away from the performance and toward the real. Someone who says no, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. No to the jobs that drain them. No to the relationships that numb them. No to the endless race for more that never delivers enough. And in saying no, they begin to say yes, yes, yes to stillness, yes to depth, yes to the small, sacred moments that make life worth living. A tired soul that chooses meaning becomes dangerous not in a violent way, but in a disruptive way. Because they no longer play by the rules of a system that never respected them. They no longer need to fit in, because they've remembered that wholeness isn't found in belonging to the crowd, it's found in belonging to yourself. And that kind of integrity, the kind that comes from losing everything false, shines quietly, fiercely, unapologetically. But this path isn't easy. It's not glamorous. It won't make everyone understand you. In fact, it might make you more alone before it connects you with the people who truly see you. The sacred rebellion is not about changing the world overnight. It's about changing how you show up in it. It's about living in such a way that your very existence becomes a statement. I will not abandon my soul to survive. I will not numb myself to fit in. I will not pretend that I'm okay when I'm not. I will live with honesty even when it hurts. I will live with heart even when it's heavy. And that changes things, slowly, quietly, radically. Because one soul living with truth becomes a mirror. And when others see it, they remember something they'd forgotten in themselves. In this way, your tiredness becomes your offering. Your wounds become your wisdom. Your pain becomes your power. Not because you overcame it, but because you integrated it. You didn't escape the darkness, you learned to walk through it with your eyes open. So if you're tired, truly soul deep tired, know this: you are not lost. You are not broken. You are standing at the entry of your own sacred rebellion. You are being called not to end, but to begin again, with new eyes, new values, and a new kind of strength. The kind that doesn't shout, but radiates, the kind that doesn't conquer, but creates, the kind that doesn't seek to be understood, but to understand. And maybe, just maybe, that's the reason some souls get tired, not because they're weak, but because they were always meant to lead us back. Back to meaning, back to presence, back to life. Thank you for walking this path with me. Let this be the beginning of your sacred rebellion.